Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all doing fantastic. Hope you're all remembering to take care of yourselves and that you're all having a great day. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. There's a link in the description below. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. We've been here for I think about maybe 6 or 7 days, give or take. A lot of the news has lightly reverted back to hyper optimistic news. If you missed a couple of days, it wasn't every single day, but there were a couple of days. If you remember, the stock market wasn't doing too well. Crypto was falling at the exact same time. We've had a lot of news about countries not doing too well economically, China not doing too hot, what the ramifications for all of these things may be by the time we get to the end of this year, moving into 2026, that kind of thing. I don't know exactly where a lot of you get your finance news from, but this is one of the more general topics. In the cryptocurrency front, it is still quite nice to see that all of the analysts are now back at it, predicting really big numbers, and that we've bounced off from support, and the nether regions where we thought we were going to go, we have not gone there. It looks like we're going to continue to create brand new highs. The optimism for the altcoins is also there as well. If you missed it in any sort of way, the idea is that the next 3 to 6 months are going to be one of the larger portions of altcoin season. And this is when a lot of people are expecting the $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 Ether, the $5, $6, $7 XRP, that kind of thing, making it into majorly popular news today. PlanB is back in the news. PlanB, super popular for his stock to flow ratio chart, where he basically shows exactly how rare Bitcoin is to the amount that's already been created, to the amount that's going to be mined, to the amount that's already there in the hands of people, all those kinds of things, comparative to gold, and how rare Bitcoin actually is comparative to every other asset. PlanB, the creator of the stock to flow model, has reaffirmed his Bitcoin price target of $500,000 US. He initially set this target when Bitcoin was trading at around $20,000 3 years ago. Remember, this was a couple weeks ago, but also in summertime of last year, I said, here we go. We're here. All of the major analysts, all the predictioners, all these people years ago had very big, very healthy, very strong numbers for Bitcoin, for the altcoin market, where Bitcoin was going to be by the time we got to the year after the halving, 2025. And I remember saying in 2019, and also in 2020, when PlanB was a guest on that podcast many years ago, and they were looking at his charts and stuff like that. And by the time you got to, I believe, 2029, his chart, I think, showed over $1 million Bitcoin. By the time it showed 2033, there was no longer the chart kind of cut off, and you might remember the story. The person was asking him, and they said, why doesn't it continue? And he said, because the numbers get a bit ridiculous after that. And it kind of zoomed past $10 million per coin. So I said, okay, during the next halving, all these people talked a gigantic, big, really crazy game. So we're here. We're in 2025. It still sounds lightly futuristic to me, at least, at this point in the year. But we are going to see exactly what's going to happen with Bitcoin. A lot of analysts are all predicting over a $300,000 to $400,000 Bitcoin. The lowest number that we have this moment is from Peter Brandt, BRANDT, who said that he sees Bitcoin going to $185,000 by December. He is thus far the lowest number. If we even got to $185,000 to $200,000, don't worry, altcoins would still do exceptionally well, but he is the lowest. Everyone else is predicting major numbers. What's this guy's name? Samson Mao was also recently in the news, and a bunch of other people. The $1 million Bitcoin crew, they're very strong right now, and they're like screaming from the top of mountains that this year we are going to see $1 million Bitcoin. If you don't go onto Twitter as frequently as other people, there are still about 2 or 3 people who claim, and I mean, they have been before. It's not that I'm skeptical. It's more of a, if I wasn't there for the conversation and they're posting on Twitter, I can't be like, this is real. Who are claiming that they're in contact with a number of states within the United States, and also apparently people who are going to be in the White House, and that a Bitcoin reserve for the US is still going to happen. Once again, this is Twitter world, and people claim things and say things, but as we know right now, as far as we understand, this is still underway. And a number of states are going to do this as well. If we hear that the US is going to be buying more Bitcoin than they currently own, which I believe is 200,000, I think that's the number, and other states begin to do it as well, this will cause a gigantic cascade effect where tons of money begins to really rapidly flow into our market. And this, I believe, is kind of the framework for the idea of Bitcoin getting to 500,000. So let me try and clarify 1 or 2 things really quick. I don't know what's going to happen. No one does. I've had people asking me before, where's the market going? Give us some information. Everything I have, you have. We're going through this journey together. I mean, like, really, as corny as it sounds, like, it's completely true. When years ago, every analyst said nothing about Bitcoin accumulation by nation states, it was simply that Bitcoin scarcity itself would cause us to get to $500,000 by 2025. So I wonder, with this new idea of countries and cities and states and etc. buying up Bitcoin now, does that like bake extra money into the cake? Or is it still just $500,000 per Bitcoin? Or is it $500,000 from the predictions from 2019, 2020? Adding on top of, you understand what I'm saying? Everyone had these numbers years ago, and now it's time for these numbers to come true. And there's 2 narratives at play. It's either the original one, that Bitcoin's so scarce that by itself it would reach those numbers, and or now it's this idea of other countries buying up Bitcoin and the ETFs accumulating Bitcoin, and therefore this is why we're going to hit those numbers. Okay. This prediction stands out as one of the most ambitious forecasts for 2025. After 500,000, the only other numbers really are 1 million. We had early last year when the ETFs got launched, we had a couple of people who were throwing out 700, 800,000. They've kind of gone hush hush since then. 500,000 seems to be like the number. And then after that, there's no in between. So imagine like going from 500,000 to 1 million. It's like this really wide gap. You either like believe, or you believe. You know, there's only 1 or 2 options there. PlanB referenced his previous statements regarding Bitcoin's future. In an October 2022 post on Twitter, he suggested that the upcoming halving in 2024 could significantly boost Bitcoin prices. He remains confident that this prediction is still valid. The expectation for Bitcoin is to reach $500,000 in 2025, being bolstered by the anticipated halving this year. What? Okay, whoever wrote this needs to go back and spell check. Right. Very popular news, as always. You can't really say that Bitcoin's going to $500,000. in the next like 8 months and not have people be pretty hyped. I am dramatically excited to see what's going to happen this year. All of this has been predicted for a while. And that's what I think is the weirdest part for me personally, being in this space. I told you some of this last year as well. I was reading about crypto since around 2014. I made this channel at the end of 2016. So I've heard all these predictions, I've heard all these things, but in 2016, 2025 feels like a lifetime away. So we're here, and I'm very fascinated to see like what actually comes true and what doesn't, who gets what right, because it's easy to claim in a decade that X, Y, and Z is going to happen. But when that decade rolls around, you know, got to hit the big numbers. Yeah, that's Bitcoin going to $500,000 in 2025, according to PlanB. I am still sticking with 250 to 300,000. Those are my like numbers, my like realistic numbers. But of course, if we see like mega adoption in the next 90 days, I mean, let's be realistic there. The price will, of course, go a lot higher. That's the PlanB news. And yeah, let's move on. Also in like random news, but I guess kind of cool. According to data from Into the Block, a remarkable 78% of Litecoin addresses have been holding on to their coins for over a year, reflecting a strong level of commitment among its investors. So let me give you some sort of context here as to why Litecoin is in the news or why this even popped up. Last year, for those of you who were not here, we had a healthy serving of Litecoin news. It was very, very odd. It came out of nowhere. We hadn't heard about Litecoin in 2 to 3 years, like actually heard about it. When the Bitcoin ETFs launched, we began to get rumors that Ethereum was also going to get an ETF as well. Ethereum got the ETFs, and then the rumors out of nowhere suddenly became Solana and Litecoin. Solana and Litecoin. Litecoin, and it kept on popping up. And then there was an interview with the creator of Litecoin, who was like, yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing one. Litecoin's not a security and all these other things. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. And then we had rumors that there were 2 companies who were trying to launch like a mixed cryptocurrency ETF application. But I think a lot of these were shut down or nayed nearly instantaneously by Gary Gensler. Let's be completely honest here. And that transformed into later on in the year when we heard about the Solana and XRP ETFs that were going to be launching and yada, yada, yada. So I think it's because we had, also once a month, we had some kind of like Litecoin whale news, which also was coming out of nowhere because we normally, for the highest priced coins, we tend to get a lot of Bitcoin and Ethereum whale news about 95% of the time, with a light sprinkling of XRP and Cardano whale news in some form or fashion. Some whale just bought $176 million worth of XRP, like that kind of thing. It's never in the billions, but it's always in the high figures. Every now and again, we'd also started getting Litecoin whale news, which made sense, but also came out of nowhere. It makes sense because Litecoin is a legacy coin. So if you're going to think logically as to what a lot of the early adopters have and are holding, and the thing that basically is used as Bitcoin's test net for a lot of different things, it has all these like crazy upgrades on it, you would then accumulate Litecoin because Litecoin is in that fashion incredibly undervalued. But Litecoin isn't as hypey as other coins. It simply is itself. And a lot of years ago, it had a lot more pizzazz. I don't know what word to really use there to it. So yeah, Litecoin made it back into the news again. 78% of Litecoin addresses have held their Litecoin for over a year. In this cycle, the slight decrease in long-term holdings is less marked than in past cycles, indicating that many holders are expecting, and I assume, some kind of growth. Litecoin, and I'll tell you this as I told you this last year as well, Litecoin has halvings. Litecoin supply continues to drop. I think it'll take 2 more halvings to kind of get to the intensity level of where we are right now for Bitcoin as far as like the attention being brought to it. But Litecoin also, like, the supply continues to drop, and let's go over this again, a large portion of Litecoin is held in a few wallets because no one pays attention to it. So of course this is the greatest time to be able to accumulate it should something actually happen to it in the future. Very, very interesting to see what ends up happening. But yeah, I think Litecoin will do well in the future. Not as well as many of the other more popular coins, but don't be surprised. Do not have any surprise inside of you when we hear in a couple of years that like 99% of Litecoin is held by a couple, like 6,000 wallets or something like that. Anyway, yeah, Litecoin made it back into the news. Look at them. That's people are still holding on to their Litecoin. And yeah, let's move on. So, as is to be expected, this also made very popular news. Let me try and give you some of the context here as well. Cardano works. Cardano works well. Cardano does not have as many partnerships as other coins, but appears to still be doing well. Years ago, we heard daily, every day and a half, about new Cardano partnerships and upgrades to the system and upgrades to the this thing and that in the so-and-so and upcoming this for this coin and the work they were doing in South America and the work they were doing in Africa and the things that they were in the countries who were putting their, what do you call it? Like when they sold tomatoes and other things like that. That would get put onto the Cardano blockchain for certain countries as well in the supply chain. There we go. And the idea was that many different countries in the future would begin to use Cardano to basically list everything that's happening within their country, which is like a major thing, because if all of that information is on Cardano, on the chain, then therefore in the future it becomes more valuable because the history of that country and many other countries is basically on there, and it's transparent and everyone can look at it and everyone holds hands and sings Kumbaya. Recently, in the last 9 months, Cardano had a bit of a trip. It didn't fall, but it tripped a little bit, where we kept on hearing news from Charles Hoskinson, the creator of, I almost said Litecoin, of Cardano, about his like problems with people. He had a problem with the people from XRP. He said stuff about Solana. He was talking about how bad Bitcoin was. He was talking about how this so and so, and it was like a weekly thing where he was kind of just like screaming. And I remember saying multiple times, I was like, I feel like you're rich enough to just like go to an island somewhere, like buy a castle, invite all your friends, and just like live your best life. But apparently that's not what happened. So now he's back in the news, and this made major news because it has like a completely different tone to it. It's no longer like angry and sad rich person. It's like, hey, let's make some money. Let's see where this all ends up going kind of thing. I mean, this is why I think it became popular news. Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano, has shared focus areas for the community as to what to expect from Input Output Global in 2025. Charles Hoskinson highlighted Bitcoin DeFi through his official Twitter account as his first task to address. Let me make this clear. We've had rumblings. It is not popular news. It is not everywhere. People on Twitter aren't clamoring about it. But Bitcoin DeFi keeps squeezing through the cracks to get into the news. The idea that we got in 2024 from Bitcoin developers was that 2025 was going to be the beginning, the advent, the time where everyone is going to begin to shift over to Bitcoin DeFi as it's more secure. I'm parroting here. Don't scream at me if the other chains are more secure or faster. I'm telling you what the Bitcoin developers have been saying. The idea is that if Ethereum has decentralized finance and Cardano's doing it and blah, 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 therefore Bitcoin can do the same. We saw the beginnings of this with the creation of the ordinals, the NFTs on top of Bitcoin. That then became people were putting video games on top of Bitcoin. For those of you who haven't seen, Doom and a bunch of other like 8-bit games are now like officially like on Bitcoin. You can like play them on the actual chain. That then morphed into this idea of if DeFi is going to become larger and grow more in the world, and people will eventually at some point forego banks or look for other ways to make money. This also ties directly into Bitcoin staking. The idea is that Bitcoin DeFi would eventually then become bigger than all of them. Once again, I'm parroting here. So, as we heard about 4 or 5 times last year, what I think a lot of smaller holders and smaller investors and brand new people to the cryptocurrency space don't realize is that there's another effect of actually having these coins. So a lot of people do get into the market because they want to make quick, fast, easy money. That's blatantly apparent by a lot of people who jump into the market over the course of a bull run. The second part is people who are holding for the long term, who believe in the long-term growth of Bitcoin, where Ethereum's going to go, XRP to $100, that kind of thing. The third section ends up being people who have a lot more money sometimes, but they also are thinking about, I guess, more ways of making money. I can't really frame that in any sort of way. They're the Michael Saylors of the space who last year called Bitcoin boring, and everyone was like, Bitcoin's not boring, Bitcoin's Bitcoin. The idea is that you'll be able to, in the future, you can do it now, but a lot of the protocols are just beginning. You're going to be able to stake your Bitcoin. This also files into DeFi as well. It's finance that no one in essence controls, but is simply on chain. And we've seen, you can find an article, I think there was one about Binance a couple of months ago, who began to offer to like a select group of people a way to actually, to begin staking their Bitcoin to get a return from it. And then we also heard recently, for those of you who missed it, someone's creating a protocol to be able to stake your Dogecoin and get Bitcoin as a reward back. I don't know how that's going to work, but bless them. The other idea basically is that Bitcoin and a number of other chains are merging together. They're creating bridges, if you will. So the bridges that we're expected to see this year will begin to link Bitcoin to Ethereum. And this is where I think a lot of this Cardano news is coming from. It's like an underground rivalry between Cardano and Ethereum. So the idea would be linking Bitcoin to Ethereum with multiple bridges so that you can take your Bitcoin and lock it into Ethereum, the same as many other DeFi projects, and receive a return from actually having locked your Bitcoin inside, which then essentially gives you passive income for simply holding Bitcoin. I think this will take a year or two to really get smoothed out. If you've ever tried to use any kind of cryptocurrency protocols and bridges and stuff, they're rough. Like RUFF. Like some of them are really like shaky. They take a long time. You have to do multiple confirmations. You have to click on this thing and go to that website and enter it. It's rough. So this is why I was saying I think it's take a year or two when crypto exchanges begin to have this. Then everyone's going to kind of be on board. And then once again, the rich will get richer by doing absolutely nothing. This is why I've constantly been a huge advocate of you, getting into the cryptocurrency space. So with a lot of the attention being paid to Bitcoin to Ethereum bridges, this is why I think Charles Hoskinson is making note of, for the rest of the world, Bitcoin to Cardano bridges as another way to interact with it as well. Because A, if Cardano is linked with Bitcoin and Bitcoin continues to rise in dominance, you will mathematically have a portion of people who then take notice of Cardano and begin to also interact in their systems. And then the price of Cardano and the price of the chain and the price of all these things also goes up in value, not just in US dollar value, but also in like, that's a valuable chain because there's 8,000 protocols on it. That kind of thing. I think Bitcoin DeFi is going to be big this year, but it's going to take a while for things to really catch on. While the list is not chronological, the protocol's focus on Bitcoin is considered one of its biggest agendas for the coming year. I think you have to. You have to put a lot of focus on this because if it does actually take off, then Cardano will do extremely well. If you can create protocols on Cardano that allow you to lock in your Bitcoin to that chain, you know how before we kept on hearing that base from Coinbase was getting more powerful and more popular because of the TVL, the total value locked. People use metrics like that to see how much of a coin is locked inside of something. So we kept on seeing how much money was being, staked on top of base. One of the metrics for Ethereum is how many Ether are locked inside of it, staking it. So I think the last number we had was around 30%. So 1 out of every 3 Ether is not even being used for money. It's being used to like actually secure the protocol and make it stronger. That actually like adds a lot of value to the system and it shows the trust that people have in that protocol, that you're willing to literally lock away your money into something that will essentially give you free money. So if Cardano ends up making a protocol or has something this year that allows you to lock up your Bitcoin and you receive a 4, 5, 6% DeFi return for doing absolutely nothing, Cardano takes off like wildfire. The Cardano founder highlighted the protocol's other focus, including Midnight and partner chains. All year long, the Cardano ecosystem has focused on developing the Midnight network, a protocol it believes is essential to restoring privacy-centric innovation in Web3. And here's the tweet for it right here. He said, next year, Cardano is going to heights it's never been before. We got Bitcoin, DeFi, Midnight, partner chains, all the dApp upgrades, Midgard, and some extra magic that will call the fire rises. Cardano has had a very strong, nearly unshakable history of announcing that they're going to do something, and then it takes like 2 years for that thing to actually end up happening. So let's see if the timing has changed. Let's see if they get everything right. As I've stated before, Cardano works. That's the weird part. It doesn't have to be hyped up because the protocol and the chain and everything actually functions. And all the other upgrades that they said that they would release, they've been released and they all work. So if they can get this right in 2025 and have proper upgrades on chain, have all this fire rises and whatever that might actually be, but the Bitcoin DeFi will bring in the big money. Because if you can get, as I said before, ETFs, the issuers to take notice, if you can get Grayscale to take notice, and you start locking away billions of dollars away on chain, then we have a winner. Yeah, this was very popular news. Cardano is still a very popular chain. Let's see what ends up happening. I still believe this is going to be a crazy year for finance. So, right. I think that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.